right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, packed house tonight. Good. Let's see. We have a presentation tonight from middle school student government. So with that, I don't know, you guys gotta run your own slideshow or?
Mr. Cabela's been.
Okay, okay.
So I'm just here to do a little bit of an introduction of who is here. Our middle school student government meets regularly at the beginning of the year. They all ran for office, were elected by their classmates. This group can be seen weekly, all meeting together with strict agendas, very similar to a Board of Education meeting. And they figure out ways to make our school better. Over the course of this school year, one of the things they did that was very interesting prior to coming here is they took a trip down to the Dutchess County Legislature, where they did learn more about government, and they took advantage while they were there to do some research on the kinds of things that they can do to really make Millbrook Middle School and our district as a whole better. So they posed some questions about government, learned about government, but also posed some questions about some plans that they were coming up with on how to improve our building, our school, our community, while they're in office. So from there, they came back and did some planning and started to put together some work, which they're going to explain today. And essentially they put together this presentation for the entire community who's watching out there on YouTube, but as well for all of you that are here today. So without further ado, I'm going to give it to Ms. Fight and the middle school student government.
So this presentation started with comments that were made to our student government representatives about the condition of the building and also questions about what we should do in order to improve the building. So our student government came up with a survey, put it out to some people in our learning community, and you're going to hear about that now. So if you guys want to come on up, and you can divide yourselves between the two areas. Some will be speaking and some will be here to support.
Alright, so today we come here before you guys to ask and show a presentation to repair our school food survey. The student government made a Google form and sent it out to Millbrook Middle School staff, students, administration, high school students, and staff that come here to like do classes and do work over here. And the following results are percentage of people out of 228 responders. So for leadership one, we asked, are you concerned about the state of our building? Out of 228 responses, 85.1 said yes and 14% said no. So this is one of our big questions that we asked. And this is another question. Do you worry about the state of the building? So do you worry about the state of the building? So, Mr. Miller's classroom on the third floor was closed up because one of the styles, the ceilings fell open and it was leaking, so we had to close his room. And these were some of the responses.
We skipped a slide.
Yeah, I think maybe when we put it in, maybe they made edits afterwards, that's possible.
Oh, possibly.
It's all right, so we'll just go with where it's set, and I think a lot of the stuff may still be in there.
So we'll go to the questions, guys. So if you have a question, you can go right to that slide. Okay.
For our third data set, we asked, do you believe our school looks as well kept as it possibly could? And almost 90% of our Surveyors said no.
So you guys had your pastime or what they had ever been disrupted by the leaks? Nearly 67% said yes and 33% said no.
Question 5 asks, do you believe that the leaks / water damage ceilings make it harder to teach, learn, work, etc.? Just over 3/4 of the population responded yes. And actually, even last year, many of the students, actually one of my friends, her workbooks got damaged in her locker because of a leak over her locker, and she had to even move lockers.
For our 6th data set, we asked, have any of your personal belongings, lockers, or work supplies ever been damaged by the leaks? And nearly a quarter of our responders responded no. Wait,
Yeah.
responded yes. And I personally know a few kids who had to replace school items, had to buy new pencils because the water got into their lockers and damaged their school supply. Our last survey question asked, if our school is your home, would you let it remain in the state that it is? And about 94% of those surveyed said no. And finally, for our last question, we asked, do you have a statement about the Millbrook Middle School building that you would want the community to know about? The question allowed respondents to provide additional information about the building to the community. Many people chose to respond, and the next few slides provide some examples of their responses. I want them to know that if this gets worse, someone might get hurt. What if the ceiling panel falls on my head?
Band-aids have been used too long to curb the issues of the middle school is having. It's time to invest in necessary problems.
Yes, I would like the community to know that they can have their own opinion about our building, but we come here every day, so it is like our part-time home, and we want it to be a safe place to learn. And finally, it is unsanitary to have a plastic bag of thick, brown, disgusting water over the food that we eat our lunch, that we eat at lunchtime. It's repulsive. Do something about it.
And those are some of the other response that we got from some people. One of them I really liked is it is unsanitary to have a plastic bag of thick brown disgusting water over the food we eat at lunchtime. We had some pictures on here, but I'm not sure where they went, but.
I can explain that. So, in the nature of our middle school student government, they never stop working. So when they initially, I think, submitted the PowerPoint slideshow, the initial part had a lot of the basis of their things. They actually also included, and we can work with you all to make sure that that gets to everybody as well, but they included images of all of these items as well that connected to the points that they were making. So literally up until probably yesterday and the day before, they were still adding and changing and doing things, but to make the deadline, obviously get the PowerPoint slideshow for all of you. Some of those images aren't there, but we'll make sure to update that for you all. That way you can see all of the images that they found. Some of them are things like the plastic bag, the water, and of the lockers, and some of those other items that they were discussing. So we'll make sure to get that to you, Cheryl, so you can update that.
So we wanted to thank the board and the administrators for allowing us to come tonight and share the data that we collected about the building from the very people who work here every day and learn here every day, so that voters can make an informed decision. We hope the community takes our findings into consideration as they cast their vote, and most importantly, we really encourage everyone to vote. So on that note, we'd like to say thank you very much. I'd like to thank the students for all of the hard work they put into the presentation, Mr. Cabello for checking in on us along the way, and also to my co-advisor for student government, Mr. Damian Whitaker, who couldn't be here for this evening. But I really have to say thank you to the parents of these wonderful young people. They are a fabulous group of people to work with, and I look forward to more student government endeavors. So thank you very much for your time and attention tonight.
So first of all, I want you guys to know how at least proud we are, that you guys would take the initiative to come forward. There's nobody, teachers, administration, there's nobody that's more important in our district than you guys, than the students. Making sure that you're safe, making sure you're healthy, making sure that we're doing the best we can to educate you. And to see you take the time out of your schedules, the time out of, you know, not just school, but sports and home, and to put this together is fantastic. And I want you to know, you're welcome here anytime. I mean, you know, part of the reason you have school government is to figure out your class and what's going on in your building. But it's also, if you have something on your mind, it's to come here. It's to come and tell us what's wrong, what's right, what you need. And you've done, I'm just super impressed with you guys. So thank you very much for doing it. Does anybody on the board have any questions for them? Okay.
Thank you for sharing your personal experiences with the presentation. I really appreciated that. That was a real personal touch from what obviously the research you did. It was extremely impressive to me. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about getting 228 responses. Like, how did you do that? We need to follow and learn from how you got 228 people to respond, whether students or staff, faculty, etc. And just thinking that, and the eligible voters of the 228 responders or eligible voter related to one of those responders to vote yes could be all the difference in this next upcoming vote. So that was extremely impressive to me.
I was gonna ask, do you guys have anything outside of this presentation that you want to do or that you're gonna do because you obviously want the school to get fixed? Is anybody, you know, putting signs up or
So
putting your parents?
I think some of the members of our student government, went a few weekends ago to help decorate some vote yes signs at, in front of the American.
And we're also like saying on the announcements and everything. Letting people know, like, to tell their parents to come and vote.
Wonderful.
Very good.
Great.
Hey,
Very
can I ask you guys to just tell us who your name and your grade?
My name is June Crowley, and I'm in 6th grade.
And Natalie, I'm a 6th grade.
I'm Kevin Fencer McDonough. I'm the president of student government. I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Tamsin Doyle, I'm 8th grade and I'm the secretary.
I'm Robert Sosa, I'm a 7th grade representative.
I'm Abby Gonzalez, I'm a 7th grade representative.
I'm Evelyn Macy, I'm also a 7th grade representative.
I'm Gordon, I'm a 7th grade representative.
Jennifer, if I could just do one more go last.
And if I can just say one thing really quick, I want to give a huge thank you to Ms. Fight, Mr. Whitaker. They've instilled so much of the principles I know this board values that they bring at the middle school level. They've done so much. You know, getting that opportunity to get to the Dutchess County Legislature was unbelievable. The work they're doing, I can't thank these people enough. And you know, right up until the vote, they've got some plans they're still working on and some little things that are still coming, which is why I think they were being a little coy with what's next. But they definitely got some plans coming right up until the vote, and I think similar to what you said, their game plan is to see how many people can they get out to vote and just make their voice heard. That's the most important part. So I can't thank all of them enough. They've been invigorating, I would say, for me at least.
Sure. Anything else? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
So for the budget, how are you guys like gonna put it out? Is it all together or like you putting everything separate?
Well, we have three parts to the vote. There's an operational budget, which is how, you know, how we keep the place running, everything to do with the operation. There's the first capital project is really focused on the middle school. And then we have a second capital project that's on the same ballot, I guess we go, and that's the rest of the things, well, not all of the things, but a lot of the things we need to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you guys. All right. Sick. All right, next is, we're gonna open the public hearing for, I can get this thing. Oh, there we go. All right, so we open the public hearing on the budget. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Someone.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right. So the first is the 2025-2026 proposed budget.
So this budget is, there's been no changes since the adopted budget on April 22nd. We're just going to share the documents again today. We'll start with our timeline, break down the tripartite budget for you, and speak to our revenues and expense projections, our contingency budgeting. And once again, as we did on the 22nd, we included the final versions of both the property tax report card and our overall budget summary. So there's a 25-page budget summary that's line by line, categorically broken down based on the state mandated reporting structure that we have to use. So it's very straightforward, and it matches and aligns to the revenue and expense line items categorically, again, by that column on the left-hand side. Just to review the budget timeline, we are up here on the May 6th budget hearing. So after this, we will be submitting everything that we have to the state. Public budget documents will be made available at the public library, as well as in every school building main office and in the central administrative offices as well. There's a copy in the superintendent's office. There'll be a copy in my office. If anybody wants to come and visit and see a hard copy, you're more than welcome to come on in to any of our buildings to receive that copy. And digital copies are available online as attached to this presentation. And again, just as a reminder, the vote is May 20th from noon to 9 p.m. in the middle school band room that is adjacent to the auditorium. If you're looking at the auditorium entrance where we typically would vote in past years, it's going to be to the right of that entry point. There will be plenty of signs posted. So again, the time of the vote has not changed. The general vicinity has not changed. We're just going into literally one door to the right, or two sets of doors to the right from the typical location.
So I would like to also mention that we still do not have an approved budget from Albany, although they have agreed to agree. I don't really know what that means, but I'm happy to hear that we've at least gotten that far. So as we've said repeatedly in meetings leading up to this, these are based on our projections that we were provided from the state in January. We've gotten updated projections that haven't really moved much. So we had to create a very conservative budget, as we've said a couple of times over. And so every single year for our regular operating budget, it is a tripartite budget. There are three parts to it. There's a program component, which we proudly celebrate as the significantly largest portion of our budget, which is, it is designed to be. So that's everything student facing, and it is 76.45% of our total budget. That's all of our teachers, aides, instructional supplies and materials, instructional services that are funded through BOCES, any programming at BOCES, and programs for students with disabilities at BOCES as well. Any of our interscholastic and extracurricular programming, including transportation, for school transportation as well as transportation for activities, curriculum and instruction, planning and development, any of the testing services that we use, library services, computer assisted instruction, our counseling services, health services, psych services, academic intervention services, and anything related to instruction over the summer. All of that makes up our program component. And this year it is $27,252,946. As far as our administrative component, it is by design the smallest portion of our budget. We aim to keep it around 10%, which this year it is 10.4%. $3,708,169. And some of the things that make up our administrative component of the budget is all salaries and benefits of school and central administration and staff. Any of the supplies and materials that go along with the functions of those roles. Any central office staff and Board of Education expenses. To be clear, Board of Education members do not get paid. They volunteer their time to do this for our school district and our community, but there are expenses to running a Board of Education, proper training, participation in conferences, and also other organizations that support information and training for education members. Anything to do with payroll and human resources, benefits and processing, central data processing, our auditing and legal services, which are required. Any of the tax collection service expenses go along in the administrative budget, as well as purchasing and public information services. And then we have our capital component, which is the third part of our budget. This is not to be confused with the capital project. This is the regular everyday operating expenses that is related to our capital assets. So all salaries, benefits, of custodial and maintenance, buildings and grounds workers, as well as supplies and materials for custodial buildings and grounds, as well as maintenance services. Any of the bonds or capital lease expenses associated with our facilities, any court judgments, tax judgments, and or court orders and claims, any utilities, which we know utilities expenses are through the roof, and our efficiencies around our building, which we are trying to correct, are also problematic. So our utilities costs have been up despite the fact that we've done our very best to manage them and keep them reasonable. Any of our rental costs, and then maintenance and improvement costs for all of our district facilities. And so this component of our budget makes up 13.15% or $4,688,536. So on the next slide, you're going to see just a different representation of the same information, a pie chart, and then you'll also see a chart. And one of the things that we're very proud of is that in the past couple of years, we have been able to celebrate the smallest administrative allocation for the district over the past 7. So we've had the last 3 years are the smallest years out of the past 7 years, and that's what we aim to keep. We're very proud of that because that means more of our money is going directly towards our students. And I will pass it back to Mr. Garcia, who will talk about our expenses and projected revenues for next year.
So you'll see as this chart represents the categories of expenses that we expect in the 25-26 school year. So again, anybody that's looking at this at home or wants to correlate this with the more detailed paperwork at the back of this presentation, you'll see that those A10, A12, 14, A13, those are the beginning alphanumeric designations for the categories of expenses in our budget. Okay, what you're gonna notice is on the right-hand side, there's gonna be a percentage change for each category. Now, sometimes we move chunks of money between categories as we're trying to align our expenses and put the money where it goes. Instead of just paying for apples out of the oranges line, we wanna pay for the apples out of the apples line and the oranges out of the oranges. So we do move some money around. The most important numbers there are the ones at the very bottom, which show the general fund budget growing from the 34,575,075 in the current year to 35,649,651, a growth of just over $1 million at $1,074,576, or 3.11% growth over time. And again, we want to be very clear as we move forward. This is our expense budget. We're going to show you what our anticipated revenues are that match up to this. Again, with a budget to budget increase of 3.11 on both sides, because we cannot budget for expenses we don't have the revenue to cover. But we want to be very clear that our revenues are not growing nearly as fast as the expenses related to doing business as a school district. And what you're going to see here is exactly which revenue lines are increasing. As it is worth noting, the top line is our real property taxes. That is our tax levy. Our district relies on the tax levy for more than 3/4 of our operating expenses. Okay, we are recommending a tax levy at the maximum cap limit, which this year is 2.61. So even just seeing those numbers for what they are, our ability to generate revenue through taxes is restricted less than, or is restricted at a higher percentage than our ability to manage our expenses. We're just trying to trim everywhere we can to keep our expenses as low as 3.1. Understanding that our main line of revenue can only grow 2.61%. And unfortunately, our state aid, which if you go towards the bottom, about 4 lines up, you can see that we're projecting a loss of $58,000 in state aid. And I can tell you that that is a deflated number because some of those state aid numbers that are baked into that are not realistic. So for example, the state, again, the agreement to agree is, as our superintendent shared earlier, reflects a 2% increase in foundation aid, which is the biggest portion therein. However, there are other line items within the state aid package that have been somewhat, or if not significantly, decreased in the anticipated numbers. And again, you can see at the bottom of this, we do have a disclaimer, not just for the board and the folks in the room, but for folks at home. These revenue projections are based on the state numbers provided in January. That is the most recent report we've received from Albany as to how our revenues are going to look next year. And so without any more current information, we have to go with the numbers we have. If you look at the second to last line, you'll see fund balance appropriation. And for anybody who's heard us say this before, when we appropriate fund balance, we're taking any monies left over from this current school year and putting them towards next year's budget. And sometimes, and unfortunately this year being one of those times, the only way we can balance the budget is by using leftover funds from the previous year and putting them forth towards the following year. Those funds come from a number of, I don't want to use the word contingency because that is a legal term that we're going to talk about later, but possible expenses. So every year that we go into the budget process, we have to plan for the unplanned. We have to make allocations for the unknowns. Sometimes we use an illustration of like a family of 6 that moves into our district in October. And we had no idea they were coming, but they have 4 children and 3 of them have really high special needs. 1 of them is placed in a residential facility. 2 of them go to BOCES programs. That family could cost the district in excess of $300,000 that we didn't see coming. And so, not that we plan for a bunch of those families, but this is an illustration of the kinds of plans that we have in place so that should a family come into the district with needs, or should the needs of our existing population change and evolve in a way that we did not anticipate, we can still provide a free and appropriate public education as we're required to by law without suffering financially. In any given school year, any of these things can pop up. Very rare is it that many of these things pop up. And so in preparing for the many possibilities, as the any's come up, there's some money left over when the many's not happen. And so when that money's left over, we can put it forth toward the following year. As we've shared in previous presentations, that number used to be under $350,000. That number right now, because of the restrictions and other revenue streams, is over $1.8 million. We very much hope that the state final budget passes in our favor, and any movement in that state aid line up would result in that appropriated fund balance line coming down, allowing us to reallocate that money towards a number of other reserve funds and other places where we can benefit the district long term by putting some of that money away with a specific purpose.
So, one of the things that Mr. Garcia just highlighted is the fact that sometimes, there are surprises that happen that require the district to pivot and or to respond, with additional cost items. So you may remember that in August of last year, our population of English language learners doubled. from August 20th-ish till the start of the school year. So we had our last Board of Education meeting for the summer, that everything was great, we have everything we need, we're ready to start school. And then we had quite a few new registrants, I believe it was 19 in the course of 2.5 weeks. And it required adding a new E&L teacher to meet the needs of those students throughout the district. And so that was a program need that happened within the 24-25 school year that will be maintained going forward because we need to maintain services for our students that are here. Additionally, we have added some allocations for replacement equipment for obsolete athletic equipment. One of the things that we celebrate with our student athletes is their successes in not just the classroom, but also on the athletic field. And we're excited about that, but we want to do everything safely. And so it's time to replace some of our track and field equipment. And some of those items are big ticket items. So while we are creating a replacement cycle for these items so we can predict the cost, this is something that we are going to have to build into the budget this year. And on the flip side of that, we have had to, as Mr. Garcia also said, make some difficult decisions. And so fortunately, we are in a position where we have not had to impact negatively any persons currently employed by the district, but through attrition, we have lost a personnel assistant position, 3 retiring and or resigning teachers, and we have 1 additional FTE that we will most likely not be filling, and it would be really contingent on a very beneficial turn in our state aid package, which we're anticipating hopefully a slightly positive creep, but I'm not sure that we will be able to cover the cost of a full additional salary. So it will be likely that that will also not be filled. So we've had to reduce the budget in many areas, one of which is in our software subscriptions. We've been able to go through all of that with a fine-tooth comb. Many of these things have been discussed in previous meetings, but the reality is that there's an increase that we could cut this year, we have. And so for the next portion, we've also been really careful that we've reallocated within the budget. And so one of the things that we have previously done is we have shifted expenses from our ESSA grants. So those are our Title I, II, III, and IV grants. We had shifted those out of the grants and back into the general fund at the urging of our state reviewer, who felt as though the funds needed to be only for supplementing program. We have been able to move $152,000 in salary expenses from our general fund into federal IDEI grants, which target students with disabilities and the prevention of students requiring those programs. And so that was able to alleviate some strain on the budget for this year. We've also done a very good job of establishing E&L codes so that we can track expenses specifically related to our English language learners and their education. We've also created budget codes to track expenses directly related to the capital project so that we can see how much it is costing us to be able to bring this to a vote and hopefully begin the journey of actually repairing these buildings. And then we've also, because we have not been able to repair the buildings thus far, increased funding for our buildings operations and maintenance repairs. As we've said numerous times, our guys are working around the clock to keep these buildings operational. And so there's a cost associated with that. And so we've had to reflect that in the 25-26 budget. And so, Elliot, go ahead.
All right. So breaking down the changes of anticipated expenses, we wanted to share some of the numbers as to again, we share the narrative that we're doing everything we can to be as conservative as possible. And it's entirely understandable that somebody might look at this and say, okay, cool, where did that $1 million come from in budget growth? And so we wanted to share some of the larger chunks of what that $1 million is comprised of. And so the first thing you're going to see is $233,000, or almost 22% of that $1 million is contractually obligated by salary and employee benefits. In other words, we don't get a say in that discussion. Those numbers are going up, we're obligated to pay them, and it just is what it is. That's offset by a related reduction of $285,000. So that means that $233,000 number is the net increase after we took out $285,000 in those same lines in terms of salary. And that's all through that attrition that we showed you. That would have been more than double had we not trimmed what we did out of the budget so far. In addition to that, another 11.5% on $125,000 is increased facility operations expenses, including maintenance and utility costs. Again, one of the factors that goes into our tax cap calculation is a state quantification of inflation. And this year, that number is 2.98%, which means the state is acknowledging that most things have gone up at least 3% this year. But we can't levy taxes at the same rate, and so we have to cut our expenses to offset the increase in those costs. That is largely the cost of electricity, the cost of fuel oil, and related expenses. And there's also about just under 16% of that $1 million is projected increases to our pupil transportation costs. For those that may or may not be familiar, we have a multi-year transportation contract. There are guaranteed increases to that contract every year of those 5. And so we look at the rate increases that are contractual. We also look at our projected utilization of transportation. We spent, I can't tell you how many days and hours working with our contracted transportation providers in an attempt to collapse as many routes as possible. We've actually reduced one route from last year already in this current school year. And the conversation ended up with, we can't get any leaner without hiring more people. So we're as lean as we can be with our current transportation expenses. And so even that was increasing the budget by about $170,000. And we just added the note that BOCES related expenses were reduced by $290,000. And that covers the purchase of equipment, the purchase of materials, training, and other programmatic related things. Every department reduced their BOCES expenses to the extent possible to put that $290,000 reduction together. So we talked about this a little bit, but I just had the numbers here just to illustrate. Our overall state aid projection is down $39,000, despite a 2% increase in state aid. And we always add the actual versus anticipated number, because I think it's important for people at home to know also that as detailed as we can be, even when the state does give us their numbers on time, they don't always honor them in the projection versus the actual. And so since I've been in this role in the district, there's been a 6-figure offset or a 6-figure difference to the negative in what we anticipate in state aid at the time of budget adoption and vote versus what we actually receive in the fiscal year. So this number shows you that this time last year, 12 months ago, we expected to get $212,000 more than we actually received from New York State in the 24-25 school year. So we're coming into this conversation telling you that the state is telling us we're going to get at least $39,000 less next year, but we know full well that that is most likely going to be a 6-figure offset reduction.
And I do think it's important to know it's not year by year. We just got an email yesterday letting us know that they have cut our 22-23 state aid by $64,000.
Yeah, and the content of that correspondence tells us, don't worry, we're going to take it out of your next payment.
Right, so I mean, it goes back even further than just this current school year. We just get a letter and that's the answer, $64,000. So, you know, when we're doing this budgeting, I know nobody wants to see program cut, but we have to be so conservative because like Elliot said, even the numbers that they say we're getting isn't really what we're getting in actuality. And so you kind of learn to read the numbers a little bit, but a lot of it is estimation.
So then we get into the part that nobody wants to talk about, but we have to. What happens if the budget vote doesn't pass? And so if the voters do not approve the budget, the Board of Education can adopt a contingency budget. And there's a pretty detailed explanation on the screen, but I'll say it in very plain English. When the public does not authorize us to increase the tax levy, we must operate under the previously authorized tax levy, which means if we don't get authorized for next year's number, we have to use this year's number. The difference in our tax levy from the current year to what we're proposing is $707,900. And so, if the board elects to go immediately to contingency with a negative vote, we have requirements of things that have to come out immediately. And then the first thing that comes out are all expenses related to the purchase of equipment. So as our superintendent shared, we have allocated money towards safety equipment for our student athletes. That would unfortunately have to come off the table along with every other equipment purchase for every school building and department in the district. Beyond that, non-contractual salary increases. So I shared with you that there's over $250,000 in required salary and benefit increases. Anyone who doesn't fall into that contractual requirement loses their increases, including all of us at the table and a number of our managerial and confidential employees. We also, once we look at those numbers, we see, okay, so you see 50,000 in salary increases for non-union staff, 224,000 in equipment. We went back in and we said, okay, so now it's time to start cutting the things we don't want to cut. And we looked at anything that is not directly student facing that we could do without if we had to for a year. And we came up with about $215,000 in expenses that would be a tough loss, but manageable to the extent we have to. And we end up with a total budget reduction of $490,000. And we need to get to $707,000. So should the voters not support this budget and we come to the board at the end of May, at the beginning of June, and the board decides to go to contingency, the administration will have to identify another $217,341 in expense reductions that we cannot cover because we will not have the revenue to cover. And I don't say this to make threats or scare anybody, but there's nowhere to take that from that doesn't involve people and people in student facing positions, which means we're at this point, if we go to contingency budget, there's going to be roughly $250,000 in cuts directly related to instructional personnel. There's really very few places other than that to take it out of. Part of that 490,000 reduction includes non-instructional staff. Again, positions we don't want to lose, but we could forego for a year. But in order to close that 217 gap, we would have to start looking at instructional staff members. There's just nowhere else to get it. So back to the hopefully positive news. The summary slide here just shows you our budget to budget increase of $1,774,576 or 3.11%. Our tax levy increasing at the tax cap limit as mandated by the state formula at $707,900 or 2.61%. We are within the tax cap, just barely, but we're there. And we have already submitted the tax cap calculation to the Office of the State Controller as required by regulation. Any questions from the board or the community?
I have a question, Elliot. So I hear you saying if the budget doesn't pass and if the board decides to go to contingency,
Yes.
do we have,
So you,
what?
is there another
What
option?
are the, right, what are the other?
The board can elect to
options?
propose a second budget and have a second vote in June. If the board
In
does
June.
that, the
Okay.
board has the authority to propose whatever budget they would like. So
Okay.
if I could throw the slide back up. And again, I'm not saying this is going to happen.
Right,
And
right,
there's no requirement to do this,
okay,
but the board could take that $490,000 reduction as a recommendation and propose the budget with that reduction or any part of it. The board could say, I don't know if people weren't paying attention, but maybe with a little bit more information, we can help them understand the need. You could put the same budget back on, any variation thereof. Probably not a great plan to go higher, but the board can go lower. And I would say, you know, what other districts have looked at is, you know, they look at charts like this and they say, okay, what if we just take the first two lines and take them out of the budget, but we don't take everything out because we don't want to lose the student sporting equipment, or we don't want to lose that non-instructional position. You know, once we get into the weeds of what's represented here, and the board could revise the budget and put it forth for a June vote. And if that vote fails, then we would be mandated to go directly to contingency.
okay.
Anything else?
motion
do we have any? Yeah. do we have
Not
any-
online, but I don't know.
You sure?
I'm just really immersed in the information.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but, I just want to publicly say that I have a lot of language I want to use right now that I'm, New York State, it is a disgrace. An utter disgrace that they can sit there for 36 days and not give us a number of the state aid. I think it's despicable, you know? Again, I don't know if it's true, they're spending $600 million on a stadium for the Buffalo Bills, but they can't afford to give us money to run a school. They tell us everything we have to do, and then they dictate all these things, and they don't give us state aid, they don't give us the money that we need. And if anybody's watching, I would ask that you call the governor's office, because I can't use I'm mad. Because these kids deserve better, and it's a disgrace that they can do that to the schools.
And it's, I mean, just the pure fact that they can come out and say, you will have a budget ready to go for your people.
Right.
By this date, and we say, okay, we know what we need to spend, how much are you guys giving us? We don't know yet, we'll get back to you. I mean, it's the most ridiculous process.
Right, and there's things that these guys have to get to them, I'm sure, all the time. And then you see these students that come in and they put a presentation together and all that they go through and you walk down the halls and see what they have to walk past, and not just that. And the state can't even have the decency to put something together and get it to us, not only on time, but the promised amount. And even that promised amount is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Sorry, I had to express myself there.
Anything else? Nothing from the public on them? Okay. All right, do I have a motion to close, or do we have to?
And I'll close the public hearing.
All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions?
Thank you guys for that.
All in favor? Aye. Any against? All right, next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions, comments, anything you want removed, explained, whatever. Okay, all in favor?
I.
Any against? All right. Next, we have the Dutchess County BOCES runoff. I don't know how we do this.
Well, there's the two people, so, we could go around the room like we did last time. Hold on one second, I'm kind of frozen.
One.
Sorry.
The two.
Okay,
In Holland, that was,
for me, that's taking a while.
so I think we're just gonna.
It's Mark Fleischauer and Bryce Holland, right?
Yeah, so, we'll start with Dina for, Mark.
Yes,
Should it be,
Well,
it's either or,
Yeah.
right?
But, yeah,
It's only one.
yeah, either or, yes.
So,
so, yes, to Mr. Fleischauer.
Yes, to Mr. Fleischauer, if I'm pronouncing it correct.
Yes, for Mr. Fleischauer.
Say Mr. Fleischauer.
Mr. Fleischauer.
same. Okay, we don't need a motion, or do we? That's easy.
That was it.
There's a-
And then, so that's your vote, cast of your vote,
Okay.
so.
But we don't have to do it should be resolved.
Yep,
We don't have to do a motion there.
yep, we'll do a motion. Do you want me to read it?
No, I mean, the motion, do we have a motion to send our support to Mark Fleischauer?
Yes,
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Next is the second reading for 5151 and 5151R. Do I have a motion to, adopt the following resolution? Or that resolution? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, next is the reading and second reading and adoption of 5153. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Second reading and adoption of policy 5420. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments, concerns? Oops. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Second reading adoption of 5605. Do I have a motion?
So,
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
I,
Any against? Second reading and adoption of 8113, the extreme heat measures. Motion, do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Question, concerns? All in favor?
I,
Any against? Okay. All right, new business. We have a Board of Ed schedule for 25-26. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Questions, concerns?
I had a question. Not sure what one. Oh, I'm fine with it. Just want to make sure we're all aware that the second December meeting is the 23rd. I just want to make sure we have a quorum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Next is first reading of policy 1500.
I have one question on that one.
Okay.
It's about my interpretation from what we talked about in committee. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Under the conditions of use section C, it says the district retains a further right to waive user fees for groups that are associated or sponsored by the district. But in the schedule of fees, we have a section that would be a sliding scale based on Millbrook resident participation. Are we doing both? I thought we were removing the complete waiving of fees.
I think that had more to do with things like MEF using the building. Waiving the fee was for
Okay.
like something that. And that there was a sliding scale for outside organizations based on the percentage of Millbrook.
We need to be more specific.
I'm good with that interpretation. It makes sense to me. I just, when I read it, I thought sponsored. Interpret others.
Okay, Chris, did you, I mean,
Tell me what page we're in.
it's
Under the
under
fee.
section C, page 3, I think it's on.
Yep.
Okay, and what,
It was the difference between school district sponsored activities being able to waive the fees, and I thought that was things like MEF.
remains a good rate.
That would be
Or
sponsored
sponsored
Yeah,
by the district.
listed in the schedule.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I am too. I just wonder if sponsored by the district is the right word, I don't know.
Okay, the district, well,
Well, that could be an outside.
I think, I mean, could we just change it that the district
Affiliate.
retains a right to waive user fees for any use,
use.
honestly.
And just cut it to for use by municipalities that comprise the district. So just cut out who would be applicable to, because it could really be anyone.
Yeah, but we wouldn't,
I mean, we wouldn't, of course, you wouldn't want it
right, so
with.
I think when we talked about that we specifically wanted to have it sponsored.
Okay, yeah,
Because we wouldn't wanna do that for our outside, that's the,
right,
So the sponsor give us the ability basically to approve or disapprove, is that sort of what?
No,
that
I
gives us
think
the ability?
it's like sponsoring gives us the ability to waive a fee, and so we spoke about even in some circumstances, multiple uses of the facilities, like the district might sponsor an occasion, but beyond that occasion, it's
Mhm.
paid for fee kind of thing.
Right.
And then it would be clearly articulated to the organization.
I had on page 4. With the AEG, so page 4, like, page 4, they're talking about the AEDs and then looking over at the facility fee. It's a second attachment on there, Dina, if you were to go back into Word docs. We did add in the usage, or AED certified support staff, $55, but I believe that we probably need it to match the language where it says 50, we should probably have /hours/person like we do
Yeah.
for,
agree, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's not a flat.
Yeah.
So, and that basically refers to our staff that have, like, if the organization doesn't have any
Mhm.
AED trained people,
Mhm.
or they can't, they
Right,
actually have to bring their own, right? They can't just use ours. True? Yeah.
true, can they, I should know this, can they use it with indoor usage or not even indoor usage?
No,
No,
they're supposed to be
okay.
bringing their own
Mhm,
for
bring their own.
liability purposes.
Right, okay.
But
And,
we're also, that's part of getting the maintenance guys trained so that we would have
Mhm.
additional
yeah,
people
so
that
there's-
can.
Yeah, there's been quite a few people trained throughout the district. I don't know, Amy, if you have an exact figure, but probably, around 30-something, 40 people trained throughout the district. So we currently have only 2 people who have signed up to actually be, signed up to actually do this on a per fee basis. So otherwise, it's an administrator, like Elliot had to come last weekend, because we had a district group that was here, and so we needed somebody who was AED trained on campus, so Elliot was here last Saturday to cover that. So that's kind of how we've been working it, if there's not somebody who's trained there, administratively, and we're paying one of the 2 folks who have signed up for it, so we've had many people trained,
Mhm.
but, not everyone necessarily would feel comfortable to serve in that capacity, and so that's why we had them sign up for authorization to be used in that capacity.
And they're aware, the people that haven't signed up, they're aware that.
It was posted, yeah, it was.
Mhm.
Okay, alright.
Okay, and so how does that affect, I'm just curious, with the continuing ed program? Do all of those people who are going to do a class?
Well, no, so there would be coverage.
There would be
here, Or
coverage,
there would
okay.
be, it would be worked into the fees.
I see,
If there's a requirement to have somebody on campus, so it depends on when that's going to run.
I see.
If there will ordinarily be staff here,
Mhm.
it's probably fine, and we wouldn't need to worry about that, but
Okay.
otherwise. we can work into-
So updates to this policy or no? We good the way it is?
Yes.
It's fine.
This one's been around a few times. So
Oh,
Just wanna make sure we were going.
we've met many times, so.
Okay, no, I just wanna make sure before we leave the first reading that, Okay, everybody's good?
Yeah.
All right, first reading of policy 2245. Questions, comments, concerns?
Cheryl, I'm still seeing the,
I added
No.
I pulled the one from the, that's in our shared folder again.
okay. Dave, are you seeing, it just at the end, it still has the for example, and then the red.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that also? Okay.
I'm not sure which.
Well, there's, before I left the house, in the Google Drive, there was
In our drive.
one updated, and that last paragraph is removed.
Let me just get into our shared.
Yeah,
folder and I-
it's in the, right. Yeah, I need to look at it. No, under the policy. I mean, I can tell you it's different, and then if everybody is,
Well, do we, I
Margot,
mean,
yeah.
it's attached to the agenda, so it's either that one.
Oh, yeah.
Or
We need to read
we
that.
need to
Right.
come back.
For
again.
next, so I'm in the shared drive now, so can you just tell me what it is that you're looking at that's not on the one that I attached?
Do you wanna have a printed out copy? I don't
No,
have
I
any
think,
left.
no, I think David.
No, can you- did I give it to you? I think I gave it to you.
So the stuff in red, you
The stuff
deleted
in
or
red
stuff
is-
in red needs to be added?
You know,
No,
it is,
she did.
it's probably the same one.
What do
Except
you
for that,
think,
it
Dave?
didn't print out with the strikeouts.
Oh,
It's possible.
That'd be my guess.
well, when I was,
Yeah.
Is there anything?
I'm looking at the same one and it shows the paragraph striked out.
Yes.
on
This is
our,
This is from our.
under our policy folder.
Oh, I wonder if when I'm
PDF.
downloading as a PDF, it's
Maybe.
not including the strike.
Oh, it's not incorporating
So can we
those,
approve it?
those changes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this
I
is
mean,
the
it is
first,
highlighted, we can say that's what's being.
trying to think of, Chris, can you have that?
All the color shows changes, so.
I got you.
Yeah, see,
Okay, I'm sure.
Is there a bullet point or something?
So I think we can go through the first reading, saying we're moving to.
Yeah, right, this is the first reading.
Right.
The only other thing I had on that one, just to be clear, that the second page under qualifications of student board members, the second bullet, so must be a senior for the position of ex-official student board member. And then it says, and a junior for the position of alternate. Shouldn't that say and a junior or senior? Because it's saying the backup must be a junior.
I thought that that's what we wanted though.
Well, I think it can be either, right? Or do we really want the backup
I
to
think
be?
there would be a preference to a senior, but it could be either, in my opinion. And I think based on when we'd be having it being a senior.
Like
That
the
was-
first,
I mean,
the main
I
person.
didn't know where it ended up, but I was hoping that we would have like a senior
Mhm.
and a junior. Senior graduates, junior.
Right, so
takes
you
over,
do
know
want
what I mean?
we
You're
want the
always-
alternate to be,
That's my
Okay.
thought on it, but
that's fine.
I
just
think that's
couldn't
ideal.
remember.
But I
Okay,
think
that's fine.
flexibility.
if we get.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make
Well, do
sure.
you want it to say or do you want to say if a junior is not available, then they
It could be,
would, something like that? Well, if we can,
Well, right, that would be the only thing. If there's not a junior that doesn't want to do it, then
It could also be a not a senior that wants to do
Yeah.
it, right? So I think
Yeah,
junior or
either
senior,
way.
I think we should
So
put them for both.
for both.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
That's right, Caroline. I agree. Right, just an upperclassmen
So-
for both. Right.
So how about we bring this one back next
It-
time?
for a second. Yeah.
We just change the word from must to should be.
I would think,
That would do it.
Yeah.
what's it?
That's it should be.
But we can, what we can do is make those changes when we come back for the second reading.
Mhm.
All right.
Beautiful.
Did it actually say it? All right, so we're good?
On that
22:45?
one, yeah, we'll bring it back for second.
22:45, good? Delete first.
Or first, yeah.
All right, first reading of 4531 field trips and excursions.
Now Cheryl, this one that I'm saying is
It's the
very
same
different.
thing. It's the,
Okay,
for the, did you update your folder? Cause I brought in what was in the shared folder.
So Cheryl, I think the way you probably have to do it is do, like attach the Word version so we can see the changes and then accept the changes in PDF.
Okay,
And then it will come in with the finished version as a PDF and that's what it would be.
all right.
the actual
Just because it's not showing the strikeouts in the PDF. Okay.
yeah, because there's a number of things on the.
Yeah, this one needs to be.
This one is, yes,
The Google thing.
yeah,
It's not
it's,
a-
it's pretty different.
But can't we just, there's no reason this can't be public, right? Even the first reading one, so why can't we just have a link to the document? Then you can see the strikeouts, so that no matter who's looking at, they can see.
So that'd be
what's
fine if it was
changing.
attached as
Just do a
a
link.
Word instead of a PDF.
Yeah, maybe that's the best way to do
Yeah.
all of these in the future.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Just don't have it as an open Google Doc, anybody can change it.
Oh,
No, it wouldn't be Google, it could just be a word
Yeah.
right.
with the trash changes.
So back to 4531, is there, you're saying there's a lot of
Yeah.
things?
Well, there's a number of
And I
things.
don't think there's a rush on this.
We could bring it, I mean,
Yeah, we can bring it for another first reading.
Yeah.
All right,
I did have a question though. For field trips it's not in the policy. Do we require somebody who's CPR or first aid trained to go on the field trip?
No, because we're not required to.
No. Should we?
That's for the use of our facilities.
We want to rethink that? I mean, say you're on an all-day field trip.
Right, but
It's
I
like a
mean,
school day. If we're
right, but
we have-
so where are we going on a field trip?
lots of places.
I know, but lots of places have lots of people trained also, right, for the use of their facilities.
so what you're saying is you
I-
want us to,
I'm
We're
putting
not
it
gonna-
out there to think
we're
about.
gonna say that,
It's not,
right,
Yeah.
but we're gonna say that we're gonna, someone has to be trained.
mhm,
Then we have to ensure that there's
Right.
actual
I know.
defibrillators on the bus and
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, if
Concerns
that's,
there's multiple buses, you have to have a trained person on every bus.
yes,
not necessarily on every, I would say if we choose to do that as a practice, I understand we're not legally obligated to. If we choose to do it as a practice, you could just have one person, doesn't mean you
Not
have to
if
have it on
we're-
every,
like if it's
Bus.
multiple buses
right, I'm not-
and somebody has, an issue on a bus, and I don't think they can
Well,
radio
they
the other bus and say, stop, give me your
No,
defibrillator or
could
something.
call,
But
I
the
don't know.
reality is that we've
Right.
had buses depart 2 hours apart from one another
Mhm.
because of mechanical issues. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's opening a whole can of worms, not saying we shouldn't.
Mhm.
I'm just saying it's opening a whole can of worms that is going to require, potentially additional staff going on these.
Well, that's a
field
fine
trips.
line of what's the
Issue.
difference between an hour, going away for an hour and the commute home to the kids. I mean.
well, I'm just comparing it to a school day,
Yeah.
because I hear all the time, a field trip is a school day. And so
I think to Caroline's point though, I
Yeah.
mean, most of the places that we go, they have the proper people there to
Mhm.
pick up that concern, but.
I know,
I
but
could be wrong.
sometimes
Maybe not.
minutes make a big difference. I'm just putting it out
Yeah.
there for consideration, that's all.
I just had, and I don't know why, but I just have the feeling that we're gonna make a field trip so complicated that we're just not
Oh,
gonna do them anymore.
that's not my intention.
You know what I mean? I mean, if we're, even if they're gonna take a walk from Alden to the library, who's strapped on with the AED and this defibrillator and, do we have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I worry we're gonna make this so difficult. That we're not gonna be able to we're gonna end up not doing field trips anymore.
no, that's definitely not my intention.
Put that in the record that Chris said, no more.
No, do not. I love you.
I have a question, so about the language under
This is
desirable
being
field
changed.
trips, where, okay,
Well, this
Sorry.
is,
where it says if no student may be denied the opportunity, but that language is also applicable to educational field trips as well, right? It's because it doesn't make it clear since they're separated into two categories.
It's
Oh.
wording the educational
Oh.
trips.
Katrina, that was actually a point of mine too. I feel like it should just be,
Like maybe a
Um,
separate paragraph even that, not
because
just under that. bullet.
sometimes educational field trips, a child might not even be able to afford that
Admission.
small admission fee. So my thought was fundraising plan and, no student may be denied opportunity to participate solely because of an inability to pay that,
For any field trip.
right, that it would be its separate.
Is there already regulation that prevents that though? I mean, that'd be the equivalent of, we couldn't
Yeah.
remain in a class,
school
that
day.
classroom that day, that's an actual
Right.
educational.
Right, so we actually can't keep them back from it.
Yeah.
I mean.
It doesn't hurt to put it in policy if it's already
No,
regulation, but I
yeah.
don't know if it's necessary.
Just because the language under educational field trip says no payment other than an admission fee may be
Right.
required
Somebody
of a
might not be
student
able
for
to-
this type of trip.
They might not be able to afford
And
it
that's
back.
because it is
Right.
required that the families pay for a desirable field trip, so I think that's why it's there. I'm not saying we can't add it to the other one. But to David's point, if it's an instructional field trip and it's part of the instructional program, then the district would have to ensure anyway that a child would be able to go. That's really the difference.
And then are we capping, like, what if everyone's like, well, I can't pay, is there like an eligibility worksheet or something, how do we determine?
Yeah, so that's tricky. So
Mhm.
at this
We talked
point,
about that.
yeah, we talked about this
Definitely talked about
because
that.
things were much more clear when there was like free and reduced price lunch eligibility. We don't have that now. So now that everyone gets free lunch, that's why it becomes really, really important for our families to complete the income verification form so that we can support with things like this. It could also be something like fee waivers and stuff or AP exams, it's not just fun stuff, right? It's really important stuff down the road too. So. Yeah, I mean, it's very challenging.
Should we include that if they have the income verification?
We can't require them to do it.
Okay.
So we can encourage it, but we can't require people to do it. And I think with the field trip one, it sounds like we have some revisions that we need to fix up anyway, so we're gonna revisit this at next meeting.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, just under page 2 for medications, it says, if no district staff or other appropriate adult is available and the medication schedule cannot be adjusted by the student's prescriber, the trip will either be rescheduled or canceled. So is that like for everyone, the trip is gonna be rescheduled or canceled? If the child that requires the medical assistance is not gonna be accommodated?
Educational trip, that would be the case, correct?
Right, because we can't not allow that child to go.
Okay, so that's only for educational field trips.
Well, I mean, I would say it would be either, but for educational field trips, right, we would absolutely have to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Only for a child. But that was your
Yeah, that's where it's not.
I think any field trip, if they need their medical.
So essentially, it's, you're looking at something where a child is being held back from a field trip because of a.
Yes,
So
you
won't
can.
be able to.
You can't.
No.
Has that happened?
Not here.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not that I know of, but it
Okay.
has happened in my experience where there's been a conflict with that, yeah.
Okay.
So that is the whole trip being canceled, that's what we do.
And or modify, reschedule, et cetera, et cetera.
What are we gonna do with this one? We still have a bunch of things to revisit.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming back for first reading.
Okay. All right, accept the donation from MEF. Do I have a motion?
Some moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Accept the donation from the PTL. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thanks to the
Thank you.
PTO.
What are the tote bags for?
Our middle school students,
That's Mr. Cabello.
Like,
the middle school students get the tote bags. To
Oh,
carry
like-
into
Is that the incoming class?
for
For
the incoming year.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
the whole middle school.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, to establish the scholarship, in the name of Matty Way, funded by the Dingy family. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Did you want to say anything about this?
Sure, so this is. Did they give details in here? So Maddie was a student here, who up until, I believe, 8th grade, and then she took her education outside of the district, but unfortunately, she tragically passed away. She was 17 years old. Or turning 17 in 2021. So this is her family who's done actually a number of fundraising type things. There was a book drive that they had done, Maddie Loves Books, and so there was a book drive that they had done, and this is a scholarship that will be in Maddie's name. To keep her spirit alive here in the district, and so the district has to create this scholarship fund in order to receive the funds and award the scholarship.
And I believe 2 years ago, they were actually awarded the Millbrook Middle School Community Service Award for that work. So this has all been kind of building up towards a lot of their work here with us in the district.
But just to make it clear, we're setting up basically the container for the scholarship, but the monies are coming.
Yeah,
from-
yeah, so the family is donating the money, but we need to set up the actual scholarship so that they can donate the funds and that we can also pay out to the funds.
Okay.
This is wonderful. I don't have any issue with this scholarship. A question about scholarships and,
But why don't we-
would that be a new business?
Well, we're in the
I'm
middle of
sorry.
it. We're doing a motion on
Oh,
this.
yeah,
Then
okay,
we can talk about that too. you
okay,
know.
you tell me. Okay.
So, anything else on this one specifically?
Wonderful.
All in
That's
favor?
wonderful.
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Did you wanna go ahead and ask your question?
Right, about scholarships and in general, do we have any type of procedure? I know there's some scholarships that are, some scholarships that come from foundations and they're larger, and so they have their own selection committee, and then there's family scholarships, and, I completely understand, them saying, and to ease the burden, we'll have, a teacher or whoever at the high school nominate. But do we have some type of procedure for it? I'm not saying it needs to be policy. But it's just some type of procedure that outlines
The
that process.
scholarship outline.
Well, right here, right? Like the student would be nominated by faculty, and I know there's a lot of scholarships that say that, but how would that nomination
Yeah, there's a
Come
process
of that?
where they have
Okay,
nominations based on the criteria, and then it's selected essentially by a small committee
okay,
at the high school. But it really kind of depends on the scholarship, how it's selected, by whom it's selected, and also what criteria is. So I can say for like the Rotary, they interview kids,
right.
you know what I mean? That's they do the selection, they give us the name.
I think Romanes is similar to this stuff, right, where it's just a
Yeah,
small
I
group.
mean, quite
I mean,
a
they have
few
their
of them are,
qualifications,
yeah,
so-
quite a few of them. Sometimes the family reads essays,
Right.
it's what they require, and then they select the person.
Okay,
So it is very dependent on the persons who are funding it, how they choose to select their people.
All right. Let's see, next is President, Vice President, reports. First of all, I want to, anyone that's listening, please come out and vote. You know, we need to know what the thousands of registered voters believe that, you know, is the right direction for the board and for the district. So yes or no, please come out and vote. Also on the 13th, you know, we have spent, the administration, board have spent a tremendous amount of time trying to make sure that our questions are answered, that options that maybe we hadn't thought about, have been evaluated. They are all packaged together in a presentation that I think the last time is the 13th.
Correct.
At 6:30. Please come out. Don't, if you can, don't just listen to social media. Don't just listen to, you know, what somebody told you down the street. Just please take the time to come out, listen, question. It's one of the most important aspects of the district in quite some time. I also I kind of received a phone call from Eric Alexander, who I believe is a candidate for county legislator. And he wanted to know if I would spend, you know, a few minutes basically talking about what the school board needs, you know, from government. And you know, it give me the opportunity to whine about, you know, all the things we do. And I said, you know, this is it's pretty easy. From a county legislature, you really don't have a lot of effect, except when you go and scream and yell at the state government. You know, why? And I said, we are forced to have a budget ready by a certain date, and the state has no, you know, reality behind giving us our number for state aid. I said, the state mandates, they come out with, thou shalt do this. Where's the money? Oh, we don't have any money. You have to do this. I also told them that the tax cap needs to be reworked. You know, 2% doesn't keep up with inflation. And I said, but from a county standpoint, we need help in revitalizing Dutchess County. You know, our population isn't going down because people don't care. It's going down because there's no affordable place to live. And in fact, it's very difficult to work in Dutchess County. So I don't know if it made any difference at all. You know, he had a lot of questions about, you know, things that are getting in the way of the board, getting in the way of the district. But again, you know, from my lack of knowledge of the county legislature, I'm not sure how much they can help, but it never hurts to have someone else yelling at the governor or yelling at FED, so. And I think that's all I have for mine. Chris, did you?
No, you covered it, just come out and vote.
Yeah, please. All right. Next is middle school principal.
Thank you. So a lot of stuff going on currently, or has gone on in the last month or so, and is continuing to go on. So we are right in the heart of state testing, and we are getting excellent participation. So I want to give a big thank you to all the families that are supporting that at home. We've had some really great events. We're in our end of the year trips as well. So I do want to also thank the MEF. They do a lot to help us out with our 8th grade trip to DC, and then we have our upcoming trips for 7th grade to Philadelphia, and our 6th graders will be going over to Vassar College, which is going to be fun. We've done a lot of really cool things. We've seen the quantum computer with lots of help in organizing that with lots of community members. And we've been doing things like honoring our students of the quarter. We had a student, Natalie, who placed in the science fair, both here locally and in the Dutchess County Science Fair, which we're really proud of her as well. And lots of just really good things happening here at the middle school. Really proud of our middle school student government who came out today. Too, they've been working really hard. I can't say enough about them and their team. And they've got more coming to kind of support the vote, as you were saying, and get folks out. That's, I think, their biggest thing that they're gonna be aiming for now. So they're still planning on some stuff that, you'll certainly be hearing about soon. You have any questions at all about middle school?
I was just gonna say, please take it back to them, you know, I'm sure they were really anxious to get out of here and, because it's nerve wracking, but please take it back to them that, you know, that the fact that they would get involved and actually take the initiative was amazing.
Yeah, and it was very much grassroots student driven. They went to their advisor, kids came to them and they would come to me and say, what can we do for this? I'm like, work through the student government, go through the teachers. It was this really beautiful process. And that's what student government's all about, right? The kids speak to them, they speak to us, we advise them, and then they lead the charge for whatever it is. And the charge for the students this year was to talk about this vote and the things that can happen here in this building. So it's really impactful.
Very good. Right, any other questions for?
What's the PE wellness field trip to Yankees?
Yeah, so PE Wellness is one of our enrichment classes. So it's actually happening on one of our give back days now. But yeah, they take a trip down. So they do not only playing baseball in this case, right? And what the sport is, but then they also talk about like the business and the stuff behind it, the analytic part of sports. And so they take a trip down. They've been going last few years to the Renegades because things have just gotten messed up, but now they're finally getting back down and they're going to a Yankee game. So that's always fun. I like fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right. Now, my favorite part of the agenda. Is that Steve still coming out of Bell Drive?
Oh boy, just out of his ears, just out of his ears.
Go ahead.
Yes, hello everyone. I'd just like to thank all the facility staff for their hard work during spring break, getting into classrooms and areas that we normally can't get into while there's school going on, so. For example, like the shampoo all the cops down at Elmer Walden, and there's some projects that we couldn't know formally do during school, so I just want to thank the guy. At the high school, the maintenance guys repaired the cable, all inch, on the one of the gym basketball hoops that go up and down. So there's a cable that controls that, and that job was always outsourced. So our guys, again, it's going up in the air, figuring the things out, is it the motor, is it the cable, what's going on? When I first started here, they were big jobs, like each one just an inspector, like $5,000 for a $20 part. So these guys are really doing an amazing job repairing these things now. So I just really want to thank them too. And in the middle school, we replaced all the fire alarm pull stations. We upgraded them. They're all brand new. They're all under the same key. Everybody has the key. Before it was all mixed, matched. This key, screwdriver works this one, and Allen key works this one. I couldn't even open one more. I did say so. Mr. Gabello and myself, we went through the whole building. We recognized the problem and we had every one of them replaced and everybody's on the same page. We can go around to any station and we reset them with no problem. And if anyone else has any questions on the rest of the report?
I'm curious about the middle school gym. We had that, you know, smell in the gym and then has that, I know you guys resolved it, but at least.
We're keeping an eye on it.
Still good.
Yes, that's what like a daily nightly routine, just keep an eye on it. Especially when it rains, we can't stop the wind. It's not within our powers to stop it. It's coming through the glass block windows, the large ones, like over the bleachers. I know the rain, when it's a dry rain, seeps through the water. It just drips right. We must have painted that wall with stain kill since I've been here 20, 30 times. So the guys are trying to keep on top of it. They see the water stains coming down, dripping. They get in there, try to wipe them down and clean under the bleachers at least once or twice a week. But it's That's why whoever's watching this tonight, I mean, you gotta get this capital project approved. It's getting to the point where I don't know what to say.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. One of the quotes, on the student government slide, it doesn't mean it's true, so I just want to ask, it mentioned that fans couldn't run in the gym because of the mold.
That is actually the opposite.
Correct, that's why I wanted to put that out there.
The exhaust fans,
Because it's on the presentation.
the exhaust fans are being turned off because of the noise. They make they're large air handling units that are up, hanging from the ceiling. So they're inside the gym itself. They're not on the roof, which they should be actually by design. And, they're being shut off during the day. So that's not happening no more. So they want it during the day.
And I'm glad you caught that. That quote actually was one that the kids took out of the presentation.
Oh, I'm
In their-
sorry,
in
I
their
read it the
last-
other day.
In their, no, but in their last, no, in their last iteration of it, that's what I was saying about when it got submitted, we, gave it so that they had it. They were under the understanding that it was gonna be the live document of the PowerPoint, so they kept working on it right up until, sometime this week. And so that quote was actually one that was taken out because it wasn't untrue.
Leave it to me, I
Yeah.
read it.
Nina, can you get on the board? Can you just keep track of Crystal Bell?
I know. I want to read something that you read.
Thank you, Steve.
Sorry, guys. The one last thing, I just want to thank all the students that were here tonight. That was an amazing thing,
Yeah.
I took the hit on it. I'll take it. But no, the building.
Hey, we're still open, partly because
Yeah.
you don't take the.
No, I'm just saying, I wish I could do more, but it's just like, totally outside of my powers. I mean, it's gonna take a lot of money to get this building to where it has to be.
And I took that as the fact that just the school's falling apart, not that you guys aren't doing everything you can in your power.
Well, I mean, it's like, everything's original. Look at the windows right behind Curry, if anybody's watching. Single pane glass.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is, and, I think it's an extremely important point because it's a question that keeps, how did the buildings get this way? How did the building? Well, I'm not gonna go into how they got this way, but we have done, John, Elliot have done a tremendous job in moving things forward so that we have preventative maintenance schedules. We're not waiting till it breaks before we fix it. We've established a maintenance capital fund, whatever it's called. That to make sure that if something does happen, we have money that we can pay for it. So there is a lot of work that's going on to forgetting about how it got this way, make sure it doesn't get this way in the future. So, my compliments. And how I don't like.
No, I.
Also, something to be said, I mean, we started this process how long ago, Elliot?
2021.
So, I mean, at that point, things weren't nearly as bad as they are now.
Yep.
So we were trying to be somewhat proactive in the start of this process. It's just a very lengthy one.
Yes.
And the two.
Lengthier.
Doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for John?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, Dr. Watkins.
All right, so, in my report, I do have links for anyone at home that is trying to access information. We're really excited that next Monday, we will be offering our Science of Reading program at Alden Place. And thank you to the MEF who has sponsored pizza for that event. So looking forward to, bringing our families in. It's designed to be interactive. We promise it will not be boring, and it will have the opportunity for an introduction. So if you're sitting at home and you're saying, I don't know what the science of reading is, this event is for you. We will explain that in a very concise, parent-friendly manner, and then we'll immerse you in that. So there'll be 6 stations, you'll rotate for 10 minutes. It's not going to be a long, boring evening of just sitting in uncomfortable chairs. You're gonna be getting up and moving, and you'll have takeaways to go home with you. So We're really trying to look at it, while we will be providing some insights, into what is happening in our classroom. It's more about the extension at home and what are some things that you could do even while riding in the car with your child, to help them with their reading. So we're really excited about that. And, we're also excited that our new principal, Mr. Cedarmark, will be there that evening. So it's a really wonderful opportunity, especially for our Alden families, to have a chance to have a meal with Mr. Cedarmark. So we're very excited about that. Also, Summer Scholars is off to a great start. Last year, you may remember, we had about 70 students. So at this point, we're at 42, so a little bit lower than last year, which is fine. People have different summers and maybe traveling a little bit more. But registration is still open for another week and I think till next week. So if you are interested in that, please click on those links to find out more. Also, as we previously mentioned, we have sent out for proposals, a call for proposals for our Millbrook Continuing Ed. And at this point in time, we have about 18 different proposals, and that actually, there were more than that, but we are trying to work on a fiscally responsible program. So we're trying to do it when we do have staff in the building so that it doesn't require us to pay overtime during the summer days. So we're trying to work within that time after Summer Scholars is over. And it might also entice some parents who are sending to Summer Scholars that they might want to send their child to that program. So we hope that by early next week, we will have a flyer to at least email out to our families and eventually send to our residents. So we're excited about that, but there is a link if we have closed the deadline, but if you did want to submit a proposal for the fall, you are welcome to do so. And I know I've received really nice emails from people asking for a variety of different courses, which I loved. But you have to, if you have someone that teaches those topics, please bring them to me. I don't right now have someone that teaches Mandarin. That was a popular one that came to me. But if you do, please have them submit a proposal. Also, I just wanted to give a really quick shout out for the extensive work that Mrs. Lynch did for the wellness fair. It was an amazing day, and it really it allowed our faculty into our community to really participate in this. This was a dream of mine back in the summer when we tried to plan out our department meetings and looking at the month of May. We just backed it up to that last one to make sure we got it in. We wanted to have something that would provide the staff strategies to work on their own wellness, because there is research, which was one of our sessions, that teacher wellness impacts student academic achievement. So it really is together. So our vendors came out, our teachers had the opportunity to either attend a Narcan training and or go around our vendors. They could be part of the Socratic seminar station or participate in a yoga station. And we had really great responses to that. It was a lot of work. We were very happy to have cousins here too. They were a nice treat for anyone that was in the area. With that, the next bullet is really something that we're exploring right now because of the importance of our staff wellness and teaching strategies to our staff and to our students, because life is hectic, like life is stressful. There really isn't a moment, there's moments, small moments that we just are like, oh, this is wonderful, but we don't always have those moments on a day-to-day. So we need strategies. So Ruler has been fabulous in identifying our emotions, but this is the next level of that work, is identifying strategies to work through those emotions and help get you back. So Sky Schools has already worked with our administrators. They have modeled some breathing techniques that are available. They are coming back again, just because of the positive response that we did have at the last department meeting on wellness with the staff, to work with our teachers at the June department meeting, sharing some of these staff's strategies. And I am working currently with Mr. Cabello to train our current 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. So I'm hoping to make that something that we can do for all 3 grades, to provide them these strategies. So it could be like our pilot school and taking this on, so that at least we would have one group entering into the high school as they begin that transition, to have some of these strategies. So more to come. Just a congratulations to all of our teachers 3 through 8, and of course our students and the parents that prepared their children for the 3 through 8 testing. We had a very overwhelming response to the students taking the exam. several students that did not take it, of course, took our district assessment that just are data points for us so that we can continue to look at our curriculum and see where we need to refine or tweak. And also I wanted to share that Mr. Hernandez and I are working with Mount St. Mary College and DC BOCES to run a dual enrollment program here. So that would allow us to simulate what's happening with DC BOCES. So we went through their course catalog, things that they are offering. It stemmed from an education micro-credential that they're offering for students in high school that could feed the pipeline of creating some teachers, but extended into other courses like psychology, child psychology that we offer, our arts programs that would really provide our students that may not be a math student or a science student, where our AP courses tend to be, into our arts and music classes. So more to come on that. Something, last minute agenda items, I wanted to throw out some surprises to you that as per the last conversation, when we had Mike here from DC BOCES talking about BOCES looking for space, our superhero superintendent put me in contact with Ms. Drozowski, and I had a lovely meeting with her. And we are almost to the point of a signed contract. We are this close. We're just waiting for BOCES to send it, but we definitely have a verbal agreement and an email for Alden Place and Elm Drive to have a classroom, which would be rental space, which would be revenue for the district. So once again, compliments to our superintendent, always looking at providing a great opportunity for students to learn, as well as looking at our fiscal responsibility. So more to come for an official approval in the weeks to come. And just a reminder for our families at home, as Mr. Hartswick mentioned, May 13th is the next forum. So we have reminders about this. We have our videos. Those are all over both our Instagram and our Facebook page. They're also on our capital project page. And then we also have a YouTube channel specifically for any videos that we put out on the capital project. So if you or someone you know has some questions regarding the capital project, we have answers for you. And if you don't see it in any of that material, please reach out to district.info@millbrook.csd.org. Thank you.
Questions?
The dual enrollment. I guess I'm a little clueless, honestly. I thought that all the DCC courses that are offered through here were dual enrollment, but
Yeah,
that's not.
so it would be an expansion essentially of our offerings, and Mount St. Mary's has quite a bit more flexibility and also different options in terms of supporting students who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. There's some different structures that we can use, so Mount St. Mary's being private, we can explore it.
Okay, so students that are current, like a senior right now is taking the DCC connections, that does give them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, that's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
All right, future agenda items, you know the deal. Public comments and questions?
None.
None. Okay, I'm gonna propose an executive session, but before I do that, please remember, this is where we cut out for a little bit, but when we come back, there may be motions. If we have to take any action, they have to be done in public. So the meeting is not over until we come back and leave executive session and adjourn the meeting. So with that, do I have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Bye.
Hi.
Right. Well, any against? All right, very good.